5 times a day, every single day, millions upon millions of people all around the world just pause what they're doing to perform a ritual. A ritual that stayed pretty much the same for over 1,400 years. We're talking about the Islamic prayer, or salah. And in this explainer, we're going to break this incredibly intricate act of devotion down step by step. So the big question is, how does it all fit together? You've got these super precise physical postures, very specific words being recited, and this deep internal intention of the person praying. How do they combine? Let's dive in and explore the mechanics and the meaning behind it all. We're basically going to walk through the prayer exactly as it's performed. We'll start right at the beginning with that first moment of preparation and go all the way through to the final words of peace that conclude it. We're going to look at the intention, the physical cycles, and how it all wraps up. Now, you might think the prayer starts with a word or a movement, but actually, it begins before any of that. It starts in the mind and with the body. This preparation part is absolutely crucial. It's the foundation for everything that comes next. See, it all starts on the inside. The very first step is forming the intention, the niyyah, in your heart to actually perform the prayer. Then, you work on building this state of reverence, which is known as khushu'. A really key part of this is where you put your focus. Physically, your gaze is lowered and fixed on the exact spot on the ground where your forehead will touch later on. It's a simple trick, but it's so powerful for blocking out distractions and just centering your mind. So once that internal state is set, the prayer officially kicks off with what's called the opening takbir. The worshiper raises their hands up while saying Allahu Akbar, which means God is the greatest. The hands go up, palms facing the Qibla, that's the direction of Mecca, before being brought down and placed one over the other. And right away, we see one of the first slight differences in posture. For men, the hands are typically placed below the navel. For women, they're placed up on the chest. The sources explain that this is for reasons of modesty, to be more concealing for women. Okay, so the physical posture is set. Now the verbal part of the prayer begins. Let's get into these opening recitations. The very first thing that's recited is a silent, personal prayer of praise. It's called the Dua al-Istiftah, the opening supplication. You can kind of think of it as a quiet, personal hello to God before the more formal recitation gets underway. Now, the roles here are really clear. If you're praying by yourself, or you're the one leading the prayer, the imam, you'll silently say a couple of preliminary phrases before you start the main chapter from the Qur'an. But if you're a follower in a group prayer, your role is different. You don't recite, you just listen really intently to the imam, and then you say Ameen silently after he finishes that opening chapter. And whether that recitation is silent or out loud, well, it all depends on the time of day. For the dawn, sunset, and night prayers, the imam recites out loud. Same thing goes for special group prayers like the Friday Jummah or the big Eid prayers. For all the other prayers, the recitation is silent. All right, once those recitations are done, the prayer moves into its first major physical cycle, the act of bowing. This movement is called ruku', and it's this incredibly powerful physical expression of humility, a really core posture of reverence within the whole prayer cycle. So how's the ruku' actually done? It starts with another Allahu Akbar as you move into the bow, placing your hands firmly on your knees with your fingers spread out. The key here, and this is really important, is the posture. Your back should be completely straight, like a tabletop. While you're in that position, you recite, "Glory be to my Lord, the Magnificent," 3 times. Then you rise back up while saying, "God hears the one who praises him." So from that standing position, the prayer flows into its deepest point of submission. This is the cycle of prostration. This is called sujood, and it's really considered the climax of the prayer. It's the moment when you're physically closest to the ground, which symbolizes this ultimate humility and closeness to God. Now, the way you move into prostration is very, very specific. After saying Allahu Akbar, your knees touch the ground first, then your hands, and then finally your nose and forehead. Your hands are placed parallel to your ears, and you keep your posture open, so elbows are away from your body and your belly is away from your thighs. In this position, the phrase, "Glory be to my Lord the Most High," is repeated 3 times. Then you rise up to a brief sitting position before doing a second identical prostration.
So after you complete one full cycle, which is the standing, the bowing, and 2 prostrations, and that's known as a rek'ah, we get to the sitting part. And this is where a huge declaration of faith is made.
Oh, and just a quick note on the cycles that follow this first one. When you stand up for the second, third, or fourth cycle, or rak'ah, you pretty much repeat the whole process. But there's one small change. You skip that initial opening supplication and just start directly with the main Quranic chapter, Al-Fatiha. Okay, so after that second prostration of the second cycle, the worshiper moves into this very particular sitting posture. You spread your left foot flat on the ground, and then you sit on it, while your right foot is kept upright, with the toes pointing forward. Your hands then just rest on your thighs. And while you're in this sitting posture, you recite what's known as the tashahhud. It's a declaration that has all these different greetings and blessings, but it all leads up to the absolute core testimony of the Islamic faith. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his servant and messenger. Now, there's a really key difference between the sittings. In prayers that have more than 2 cycles, that first sitting is pretty brief. You only recite the tashahhud. But in the final sitting, at the very end of the prayer, after you recite the tashahhud, you also add blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad, and you can even include some of your own personal prayers too. All right, after that final testimony and all the supplications, the prayer is brought to a formal and really beautiful, peaceful conclusion. The prayer ends with the taslim. The person praying turns their head first to the right, saying, "Peace be upon you and God's mercy," and then turns to the left and says the exact same thing. It's this wonderful final act that acknowledges the angels and anyone praying with you. It formally exits that sacred state of prayer and just extends this wish of peace out to the world. So from that very first silent intention to the final words of peace, Salah is just this incredibly comprehensive ritual. It integrates your mind, your body, and your speech all into one. And that leaves us with a final question to think about. How does committing to such a precise, structured physical act, day in and day out, ultimately shape a person's inner spiritual life? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.